These are the OrthoticME orthotic insoles from Insightful Products out of Maine. And I was outfitted for these by my PT clinic, Highline PT, out of Encinitas, California. And I'm not a review video person, nor am I a doctor, nor am I getting any benefit from this. It's just I finally reached the end of my journey of finding some helpful orthotic insoles to help me with my pathology. I have some things going on in my left foot and some knee issues, and these have solved everything. And I'm now at a place where I can point people in the direction if they are seeking insoles, whereas before it's recommending insoles was I don't know, I didn't really want to do it because I didn't have anything that really worked for me, and it's kind of an art in finding that. So the main thing that makes these amazing is I'll say that, and then I'll get into I'll have to go with the other insoles to show why they failed me. But the main thing is Ian Engelman, the MS CPO with Insightful Products. He developed a way of finding someone's ideal arch height when mapping for their custom insoles. And when I say ideal arch height, that is what makes these different from every other custom insole, because the other ones, when they're fitted, it's with a neutral non-weight bearing foot. So if your neutral non-weight bearing foot is a flat foot, which is giving you all these trouble, which is causing you to need orthotics, then your orthotic is just going to enable and even encourage that same flat foot. And so none of these medical grade custom orthotics were helping me because they were just encouraging the same poor form in my feet. So these fix that. And not only is it appropriate or more arch height than that flat foot one, but it's the right amount, because this can be too much as it can also be too little. Okay. So normally with insoles, they're going to be in 3 different categories. You have the custom insoles, or like the ones that you get from your doctor. They're medical grade. You can apply insurance towards them. Then there are off-the-shelf insoles, and then there are self-made insoles. I'll get into these last. So, and there's also the option to just do no insole. So for years, I ran cross country since the 6th grade. And in college, I just got into just running about 10 miles easy every day, long runs on the weekend, wearing the same racing flats. And I felt fine at the time, but little did I know I was causing all sorts of damage. And we'll get into running later. But so these custom medical grade ones, I just talked about how they're going to be in the shape of my poor form foot that the doctor is scanning, either in a mold, plaster, casting, foam, balsa foam, or 3D scans. They have some scanners as well. But these are not only useless, but exacerbate my problems. Now they are comfortable because it's the same shape of my foot, comfortable in my footbed. So the compliancy is probably going to be great. So that's why doctors are probably, chugging these out like hotcakes. Is they're going to wear these because it's comfortable on the foot. But once you put weight on a non-weight bearing shaped foot, then who knows what's going to happen on everything above it: the ankles, knees, hips, back, asymmetry, so forth. And then you have, so after these, then we go to off the shelf. I recommend these over the medical grade ones. There's a big problem with these is there's so many for so many different types of issues and problems. But so you have, a lot of them will have advertised like Flex Comfort, and I find that the benefit of that Flex is because these are never going to be in the exact shape of your foot. So they're able to get flexed a little bit to where it's not the same shape. Whereas these rigid ones, the rigidity is better for supporting you, but the downside is since it's not the same shape of your foot, it can create those pressure points, and it can cause pain as well. I like these rigid, hard plastic ones by Superfeet for like formal shoes, since I'm not like running. And I found these power steps. The good thing about this model in particular, is it has right here what's called a medial skive. And this medial skive keeps it from rolling around and rocking around. Like if it doesn't have that, then a lot of the over-the-counter ones will be able to swim around in your shoe, and the arch support is really just like a moving target. Again, what I also like about like the Flex a little bit is it's a little bit better for running. Like there's doctors of running. If you find them on YouTube, they have a lot of different doctors too. So it's not just like one opinion or anything, but a lot of them kind of steer you away from using orthotics at all, any orthotic in running shoes, and just trying to find a running shoe that's platform or base foam and all that and rubber suits your pathology of what you have going on. So we have the off the shelf, and another thing too is a lot of times these can be like different varying thicknesses, which can take up, you only have so much real estate inside of here. After off the shelf, we come to self-made, and these soles are pretty good too. It has a deep heel cup to keep your heel locked and arch locked in that spot, and they actually don't roll very much either. And so when you're self-made, you can take whatever off the shelf that you have and apply some like plastizote. That's what this foam stuff is. I really like it because it's got a single side on one side of it. It's like a sticker. You can just put it to whatever sole you're using and it'll stay there. This stuff, I forgot the acronym for it, but it's a little bit firmer, so you don't have to use as much foam to maintain the same amount of support. And you can even use like some cork beds as well, which are even more firm than that. But so another like I said, a downside of having to do the self-made is it's such an art. It's hard to tell how much is too much or too little, so that you're not giving yourself, enabling the poor form, or enabling your muscles to just relax and not really provide any strength support. And it takes up a lot of space and volume in your shoes. And on top of that, the foam will eventually wear away, so like it gives out after about like a few weeks or a month, and then you got to find that sweet spot again. And since the foam is a moving target, you have to change it for whatever shoe that you're in. If you're going to put it in your lifting shoes, since they're more rigid than your running shoes, they got to change. Or your cycling shoes, it's got to change. All of them, even like the brand or model of shoe, then it has to change. So it's always a moving target with the self-made. Another portion of the self-made are like these things, heat moldable. I got these off of Amazon, but they're still not cheap, and they're really heavy for some reason. But these fit great. I was able to get the exact shape of my foot after a while. But it's heat moldable, so in the shoe, after about a half hour in my bike shoes, it would change. So all that support that I had put into it was then lost and gone. So that's kind of a downside of the heat moldable. But another downside with the self-made and heat moldable is you don't know, again, what's the ideal arch height, what's the ideal amount of support that you want, where it's not too much and when it's not enough. What I did find that was great for doing yourself was Upstep. It's like an online order one, where they send you a box and has these two balsa foam things that you can step your foot inside of, and that will give them the impression to create these for you. And this is my way of around the doctor ones, where the doctor always forced me to have a flat foot. They wouldn't take it any other way. With these, I said, well, all right, I'll make my own. And I just flexed my foot a little bit. And these turned out actually great. Of course, the arch isn't going to be perfect, so I don't know if it was too much or too little, making my foot weak or whatnot. And then I could just add a little bit more of this to suit whatever shoe was inside. But again, since these were so thick, I found myself like swimming around in the heel portion. And once my heel started to swim around, it just takes a lot of the support. And as far as where your foot is hitting on there, that will be changing. But other than that, really, I recommend these. I use them for like my lifting shoes, and they're great. So we also have bare feet, and I've been through the years where like minimalist shoes were the thing, zero drop shoes, maximalist shoes, and there's benefits to all those, like lifting even barefoot, and like Chuck Taylors with zero support. People like doing that because you're wanting to build the strength and proprioception and your musculature and tendon strength in your feet. That's a really good thing. The downside is knowing what your proper form is. And as I was struggling after I had an FDL transfer, they like swap some tendons, transfer them, fuse 3 bones, put in a wedge, screwed my heel, cut my heel in half, shaved it down, shifted the side, whatever. So my foot was kind of messed up. I went to this guy, Neil Goldberg, out of Seattle, and I had all these asymmetries on the bike. And on the running and walking, your body compensates and makes up for leg length differences, whether it's functional or an actual bone length difference. And running and walking, our body just unconsciously can adapt and compensate. But these compensations can be doing harm that we're not aware of, like wearing away soft tissue and cartilage. So on the bike, I was wanting to get this. It's different because it's a lot more asymmetrical. Symmetry is like key when on a bicycle. And if you have to start compensating with things, as far as putting in leg length shims on one leg, or wedges, or moving all around to accommodate incongruencies, then you start messing with everything. Like fixing one thing will sprout problems 3 other places. So I went in there to see if he could help me out, and he told me to just turn my toes up. And what that does is, as soon as he told me to turn my toes up, it put my feet in this like tripod. So I was able to take advantage of the tarsal right behind my big toe, the tarsal behind my pinky toe, and the heel. And what that did is it just straightened everything up, my whole chain inside my whole body, from tarsals, ankles, knees, hips, back, everything went straight into alignment. And if I don't do that and I relax, what was happening is, see how what's going on here at my ankle? This is collapsing more than normal. This is kind of a normal one on my right. So when it collapses more than normal, my shin bone rotates in tibial torsion, and tibial torsion caves in the knee. That takes the patella out of tracking and alignment. Also changes the hip, back, and so who knows where that issue caused just right there is going to manifest. So when he told me to go on that tripod, it was like boom, I had perfect symmetry right away. The map on the saddle was like all awkward, but then as soon as I did that, it went perfect and straight. So if you're looking to find what that perfect form is, you can just do that. I'm not saying bike the entire time with your toes up, because it's kind of unsustainable. But if you're kind of just seeking to find what it feels like okay, here's the point where I want to be, that's a good indicator. So there's benefits to having bare feet. And a downside to running shoes having orthotics, a lot of times like fully rigid, is when we're running stride, we're a lot more fluid and our arch is changing more. In running, we're pushing more off the front end of our arch, and in cycling, we're pushing more off the aft portion of the arch. And the arch is changing more, whereas in cycling, it's just kind of just rigid throughout the process. So that's why these work great for cycling, but they might not work well for running. And why, like a lot of physicians, when talking about running shoes, they say like, well, I mean, not only do you, a lot of times you kind of want to avoid having to have an orthotic in there, and just find a shoe that suits your pathology going on, whether it's like a stability shoe or some neutral shoes have some stability in them. And again, kind of like, it's not barefoot, but it's kind of the same rationale, that just build up your body's own strength, keeping in mind that you want to maintain this proper positioning and form. But even in these shoes, like, I have to have some arch support because I got like some issues going on, and that's why these orthotics help me so much. So if you do need orthotics in running shoes, these are excellent. If you want like a little bit more cushioning, they're so thin and low profile, you could just throw like the little insole foam piece that came in your running shoes right on top of it. Let's see. So as I was talking about with these self-made, you got to change them for all. Another awesome thing about these is I've been able to put these straight away into running shoes, lifting shoes, and all different brands and styles of biking shoes, and they fit and function perfectly. I don't have to alter them in any way. And even in these my favorite cycling shoes, I even had to put back in the little disposable insole that came with them just to add volume so that it would cinch down enough. So when before I was having to deal with having the insoles taking up too much space, now I'm having to add a little bit so that I can get a nice locked in fit. That's a really impressive thing that is accomplished. Another cool thing is it accomplishes the stability of like the medial skive that I was talking earlier about, to keep it from rocking around. It said Ian came up with just like cutting this out, so this hole acts as a stabilizing portion and keeps it from rocking. And another benefit of this hole being there is when I do put it in my running shoes, I'm able to take advantage of the soft, squishy foam of the shoe still at the heel pad. So if I were to transition to a heel strike, I can still get some benefit from the foam of the shoe. And then at the tarsals, I'm also getting all the foam of the shoe as well from up here. And you're probably wondering what this little thing is right there. This is something that I had never heard of, and it's not one of those things for plantar fasciitis, or it could be, but what I like it for is for cycling more than anything. Like running, I don't really need it. Lifting, not so much. But what it allows me to do in my bike shoes is plant my tarsals right here before it, and the toes are up above it. And what that allows is that tripod that I was talking about that Neil Goldberg told me to put my feet in. And then not only it goes from them pushing off just right here on the arch in your pedaling stroke to taking advantage of the full tripod. Whereas if you were to do that in all the other shoes, your foot can sometimes kind of slide forward since there's nothing to push against. So your placement of the foot along the arch changes throughout. So with being able to push my tarsals against that little cutout right here, I can push with my tarsals and the arch of my foot as it's being pushed down like this, and so my foot doesn't slide forward. Then there comes the weight. These things weigh in, I'll get the scale out. There's only one insole that are in the same category. So these come in at 55 grams. These ones from Upstep, 86 grams. These other medical grade ones, 68 grams. Sole, 64. Power Step, 63. The only thing close to it were these Soul Stars, and I brought these out just because of the weight. I do not recommend Soul Star at all. The shape is not your shape at all. You can no longer heat mold any of the Soul Stars, and it even puts your foot in a valgus position, which just no. But these are the same weight, and it's just a thin piece of carbon, and that is just unreal. There's nothing lighter than these. So low profile. You can still put more like comfort foam on top if you want. Let's see, what else is there to talk about? Again, I'm not a doctor, and this is going to be a lifelong journey. So if you guys see anything that you can add, please let me know. If you do have, I do want to point out that these are mainly just for arch support. So you could have other pathologies where you need different types of things for whatever you have going on. For instance, I have the posterior tibial tendon thing that I was talking about. That's where my ankle collapses inwards. So it's like I got an extreme pronation on my left foot. And regardless of the arch, it'll still be pushing over sometimes. So for cycling, we're talking as well. So what I did was, instead of having my Q factor to exaggerate things, if you have a narrow Q factor, if I did, then I kind of made like a V with my feet, and that was pushing that force vector of my tibia inward and collapsing it. So I widened my Q factor, the distance between the pedals, just a little bit, 2 millimeters on each side. But you can look into finding longer length spindles for whatever system you use. And that had more of a straight down force vector on my leg. And that allowed me to take advantage of also cycling cleats and pedals. They don't rock along the longitudinal axis. So I wasn't going to be pushing down on that ankle and it collapsing like that at all. And on top of that, another issue that could have happened is if you push down on this arch straight down, since it's sloping, sometimes it can push the foot outward laterally. But since cycling shoes are so stiff, and these in particular have like a little, the tub comes up to the side a little bit, so it keeps my foot from pushing laterally out. So when I push straight down on the arch, the foot is not sliding out, it pushes against that wall. So it's kept rigidly right there. So it's not rocking and it's not being pushed out. So it's able to take it and exert that force through the pedal stroke. And it's helped a lot. I still put a little bit just for that issue right here of foam, but that's not an arch thing. That's, like I was saying, ankle. Yeah, for running, some people say you don't need orthotics, but for everything else, I would highly recommend these to everyone in the population. As far as the background of arch support too, and getting around finding that ideal arch support, there's this guy Steve Hogg out of Australia, bike fitter. Highly recommend going checking his stuff out. Google Steve Hogg, Hogg, arch part 1 in particular, and he talks about an arch support needing to accomplish two things, because there's two things going on. First off, there's the central nervous system being controlled by the cerebellum and spinal cord that's doing all this motor action and movement for our body unconsciously. And a lot of the things that are going on with an arch are these neurological cues. So you got these neurological cue feedback things going on in an arch, and then you also have the function of an arch providing navicular jacks. A navicular jack is, so the navicular is a bone in our foot that's kind of like the keystone of a bridge right here, and it's just making a physical jack, like you jack up your car. And so it supports it that way, and it's also supporting with the neurological cues for our central nervous system. And the jacks are providing support for when either our body cannot do it, whether you have a diseased or damaged tendon or pathology going on, or when our muscle just fatigues, kind of like that mile 18 and Like, oh, dude, I just can't do it. I'm going to change my gait or do something to compensate in some way. This will keep it rigid and keep your foot from going into that unhealthy position. And the neurological awakeners are going to cue you onto the proper form and give you feedback that way. So like when I was running with minimalist shoes, I may have had the muscular strength, but I was still running with a bad form and causing damage. I wasn't even aware of it. That's also kind of why there's that whole surge in orthotics during COVID. They call it like COVID foot or something. You can Google that as well. But everybody was staying at home and walking around barefoot all day and not using their shoes with arch support. So they developed these issues. Also Steve Hogg, when he was also talking about who would these benefit, and he came across two people, a father and a son, so they share the same DNA, that did not need insoles. That is two people out of like the decades of bike fits that he's been doing that did not see any benefit from this. So even if you don't have pain, you kind of like I did not have pain all those years of running, you still might benefit from having these. I'm not saying you got to wear them all day, every day, but kind of like incorporating some barefoot running every now and then, or some like recovery shoes they're doing. Having these in your rotation so you at least know what proper form is, or when you're becoming really tired, will help tremendously. Again, I can't recommend these enough. I now have a lot more hope for being like a active person, and that was pretty looking pretty dire for a while. So big shout out to Insightful Products, and thanks to Highline PT helping me out. If you have any questions, post it, like it, don't like it, whatever. I don't care about the algorithm. If you do have some input though, put it in here, share it with the community. I'm sure that I'm forgetting stuff that I meant to say that's already running way too long. I apologize. And I'm also not a doctor, so regarding like the running, lifting, whatever, I know some people, I don't know if I talked about like people lifting in Chuck Taylors versus shoes like these, but the whole philosophy or stance on whether to use orthotics or not can vary. But that's why I like these so much. It's an objective measure, this arch height, and it provides support. Thanks guys. See ya.